Last week, I talked about 12 NES games that should be on the NES Online. Today, I'm going to show you all 15 N64 games that should be on the N64 Online. Now keep in mind that just like before, no movie-based or TV show-based games will be included. Sorry, GoldenEye, Twine, Toy Story 2, South Park, and Shadows of the Empire. Anyway, let's begin. NBA Jam 99. When I first played this game back in the late 2000s, I completely misunderstood it. I didn't realize at first that I needed to move the controller icon to the team I wanted to play, so I thought there was no way to control the players. A few years later, I gave the game another chance and eventually I figured out how to be able to control the players, but still misunderstood the play control and thought the game was just plain terrible just because you couldn't move while pushing. A few more years later, I gave the game one more chance and I realized that the pushing wasn't actually that bad at all, and that it was actually possible to push the opponents. After that, I found myself having a blast with this game, and I regretted misjudging it ever since. Clay Fighter 63 1/3. This is a really fun fighting game. It's got great characters, great game design, and great gameplay. There's even a 2-player mode so players can play against each other. My favorite characters to play as are Bad Mr. Frosty and Sumo Santa. I'm pretty sure though that fans of this game would love to see Clay Fighter Sculpture's cut appear on the N64 Online, and I myself would love for that to happen since the game has more characters and is extremely rare since it only got released as a Blockbuster rental. Jet Force Gemini, a great platform shoot-'em-up with a great challenge. It's definitely worth playing. Not only is the gameplay great, but so is the multiplayer mode. In fact, when I bought this game at a game store some time ago, this lady who was working there raved about it. The game is that freaking good. Gets 3 Deep Cover Gecko. There's not much to say about this game other than the fact that it's a very fun platformer. I never played it as a kid, but it's definitely a game I would have enjoyed back then. I recommend it. Killer Instinct Gold. This is without a doubt one of the best fighting games of all time. Everything about this game is awesome. The characters, the special moves, the combos, the music, etc. This game is a must play. NHL 99. This is a pretty good hockey game. The gameplay is good and so is the challenge. Trying to score a point is difficult, especially on All-Star mode. But it's still a game I recommend. It even has a multiplayer mode. Quest 64. I can't think of too much to say about this game, but it's a very fun RPG. It has colorful graphics, good gameplay, and a good atmosphere. Battle Tanks Global Assault. If you love explosive tank action, then this game is for you because it is loaded with it. Not only do you blow up tanks, but you can also blow up buildings and cars. There's a ton of different modes, and multiplayer is no exception. Rampage 2 Universal Tour. This was one of the first N64 games I ever owned, and was one of the first games I played where you actually play as the bad guy. When I was a kid, I thought the idea of a game where you go around as a giant monster destroying buildings and eating people was very unusual, yet very original. This was one of my all-time favorites on the N64. It introduced me to the Rampage franchise. It's a wonderful game, and it goes up to 3 players. Pokemon Puzzle League. This game was originally planned for release in Japan as Panel de Pon 64, but it got cancelled. However, it did manage to be rebranded and released in America as a Pokemon game. It's the same game as Tetris Attack, but with Pokemon characters. It doesn't have a 4-player mode, but it does have a 2-player mode. It's just as good as Tetris Attack and has great music. It even has an opening cutscene that makes you feel like you're watching the anime. It's a real must-have. Vigilante 8, a game where you drive around destroying enemy vehicles. It's like battle tanks, but with cars, trucks, and buses. It's a good game with a great variety of characters and vehicles. The gameplay is good and the music really fits the game. Though the game's atmosphere isn't really my cup of tea, it's still a must-play for what it is. And just like battle tanks, there's multiplayer. Wave Race 64. This is one of the best N64 racing games of all time. It has simple gameplay and an awesome atmosphere. The steering control does feel flawed at first, but once you get the hang of it, all is nipped in the bud. No 4-player mode, but there's still a 2-player mode. Perfect Dark. Made by the same company behind GoldenEye, this game looks and feels exactly like a James Bond game. Perfect Dark has perfect gameplay, perfect challenge, and a perfect atmosphere that fits the game perfectly. There is a multiplayer mode, but instead of being called multiplayer, it's called Combat Simulator, which makes setting the game up for 3 more players confusing at first. Ready to Rumble Boxing, one of the very few boxing games on N64. It's definitely better than Knockout Kings 2000 because not only does the play control feel better, but you can use the D-pad instead of the analog stick to move your boxer. You also don't have to move the analog stick around to get up from a knockdown. Instead, you press A and B rapidly. The gameplay is wonderful, and there's a great variety of characters to play as. There's even a 2-player mode, so players can play against each other. And last but definitely not least, Donkey Kong 64. This game is no doubt the best of all time. It was one of my all-time favorites as a kid and stands out even to this day as an absolute classic. Its gameplay, open-world atmosphere, graphics, music, play control, and storyline make it an absolute must-have. Even the multiplayer mode is awesome. This game was one of the things that really made my childhood during the late 90s and early 2000s. It's also worth pointing out what a shame it is that this game did not appear in the final best games list in the final issue of Nintendo Power. Well, those are the 15 N64 games that should definitely be on the N64 Online. If there are any N64 games that you think should be on the Switch, please let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all again soon.